I'd quite like to sort of double click on, the highs and lows of digital transformation. Um, and, I love how you say, well, we just imported some content and reskinned. Like, that's an easy thing to do, because anyone who's been involved in any kind of transformation project, let alone an integration of organizations, will know that in and of itself is a big piece of work. And, I'm really struck by the fact, and my own personal experience of like years in delivery, is that so many transformation programs fail or only partially succeed, and and there are many reasons for that. I think, before we get into what your kind of secret to success is in this space, when we talk about digital transformation, what does that mean to you? Because I think it's taken on a different meaning over time.
Yeah, in some sense, it's just become too much of a phrase to really mean anything. You've got to really, for each organization, really define what you mean by that, and it depends where you are in your maturity journey as well. But for me, it's about reviewing at a very basic level, what is it that we want to do that will ultimately serve our charitable purpose? What is it that we need to revisit and assess whether they are currently doing the job, or we need to completely replace those systems. And for me, it's about integrability. It's about not duplicating data, and making sure that for the user experience, it is as seamless as possible, and they feel like a valued member of the charity. So for me, that's what I have been trying to achieve with I think every digital transformation I've been involved in.
And how do you manage the sort of the sense that perhaps people outside of the program, but who are significant stakeholders, I'm thinking sometimes board, trustees, volunteers, or is it done yet? When's it going to be finished? What are the sort of markers of progress that you look to communicate to those wider audiences?
I think it depends on the stakeholder, and for some the question is, okay, when are we going to launch the new website? And it has to be there have to be defined milestones along the way, and you have to be really open about the journey is longer than just press a button, a new website. And for breast cancer now, we took the strategic decision to do really phased launches of separate sections, so that we didn't have that kind of big bang moment of yesterday it was this, today it's a whole new experience, and we could learn as we go. And it was about communicating that approach to the SLT and to the trustees to make sure that they understood the value of doing that and why it was riskier to do these big bang moments. And they wouldn't necessarily be able to see the impact initially of some of the things we were doing, like making sure that the integrations with the database and CRM were robust. But those are valuable foundational steps that you need to undertake before you can do the more visual side of things.
Just think of those moments where you have all this work's gone to a big go live, and someone says, "Oh, I'm not quite sure I like the color of of that photo," and it's like being able to articulate the effort that goes behind making something look quite simple is enormous. So we had a really great conversation. I think we share the same passion and respect for getting the boring things right, and really spending time and sort of space with those. For you, what when you think about sort of transformation as an activity that involves plans and people and process, what are the sort of foundational kind of approaches or aspects that you would ensure you would have in place?
I think it's really important to have a clear governance structure and clear sign-off process for the different aspects of the transformation work. And like you were saying, if no one should have the opportunity to say, "Oh, I don't like that," because they either should have been part of the sign-off process, or they should have been taken on a journey to understand that that's not their role, and that is someone else's role who has that as part of their remit. So for all design things, that would be the brand and marketing leads, for example. So those are the things I look for, and it's the governance side of things that is really important to make sure that you're hitting those milestones, and you've got the audit trail to say, okay, this was signed off on this date by these people. That's why we've progressed, and then this is when we're going live. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you can call it boring, but it is absolutely vital to make sure that the project stays on track. It doesn't creep. It doesn't get steered in different directions by interested parties.
Yeah. I mean, done well, governance should be an enabler of digital transformation and change. And I imagine in your role, you are both a sort of a decision maker and a recommender. So what does sort of good governance look like in action? If someone's asking for a decision to be accepted, what would you need in that instance?
So I think what was really important for the work that we had was we had a very good project manager, and that was part of the criteria for launching the transformation program, that we had a good project manager in place who was able to be the lead on that and to define who the senior stakeholders are who sign things off. And that gave me the freedom to then be the project sponsor, but also be someone who's feeding into the sign-off process as well, and be happy with certain aspects of it and to steer it in certain directions that I thought were in line with the overall agreed vision for the project.
Yeah, agreed. I think often project management is perceived to be sort of an administrative aspect, and it's a very active role. You are the delegated person making that change happen on behalf of the sponsor.
That's right. They were really key in bringing along people who naturally would have concerns about taking a certain product that they've run for a number of years and feel very passionately ownership of it, and to assure them that we're not here to break it, we're not here to make it worse. The whole point is to improve it and to have those rigorous plans for rollback if things don't work out. Those kind of things are really important to provide that reassurance to stakeholders that it's not a one-way door, it is a two-way door in many digital projects. So those kind of reassurances help with people who maybe are resistant to change and don't want to initially go along with it. Those conversations are ones you take your time with. You reassure them. You maybe structure the program so that the more open to change teams, you do some early work with them, show early successes, and you can use those to then motivate the less or the more resistant teams to come along with you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, good governance done well is at that decision-making point. There are no surprises. You've done the pre-landing of the pre-landing. We talk about it. It's really sort of passionate about that. And I think you had a really interesting point when we talked about when you're asked to make decisions, there's often so much information overload, and often that person might need to sort of over-justify, but someone said, just, can you make that paper shorter? Can you be more concise? Can you really think about what it is that you're asking of us?
Yeah, I think that's a really important skill, which I've had to learn over the years, is brevity and rolling back the amount of information that's included in papers for boards or for project groups, to make sure that it contains purely the information they need in order to understand what's being asked of them, and to be clear about what you're asking them. Is it just for comment? Is it for approval or for sign off? So that's been really valuable for me to work with some leaders of outside the sector as well. So the boards at the Royal Academy of Engineering, most of the engineers come from industry, from commercial sector, and so learning how they work and what their expectations are in business really is helpful for the governance of charity work.
I mean, you can feel like you're the sort of in the eye of the storm. It can be kind of a sort of a spicy seat to sit in when you're leading change. And how do you sort of keep your kind of cool head and your helicopter view when you're sort of being pulled in many different directions?
I'm not so focused on hierarchy and the view that someone's opinion is of more value than others. There'll always be obviously senior stakeholders and people that you need to agree to your direction of travel, and you need to take them along the journey. But when you are working on a program or a project, I value the opinion of people who are the product owners. I value the people who are the product team, people who are what you would call more junior members. I think everyone has an opinion that is worth listening to, and I wouldn't consider myself to have a more important opinion than other people who are as involved, as passionate about the work that we're doing. So I hope that I am someone who listens to people, but then I've had to accept that ultimately I might have to make a decision, and it would be me who is the one that says this is the way to go. I've listened to everybody, and that's as true in recruitment as it is in project work. So that's the way I see things. I listen, and then I go with what I think is the best course of action.